Okay, so I've been thinking about this for like 3 days straight, and I genuinely cannot let it go. Any kid born in the next 5 to 10 years, there is a real, non-zero, scientifically supported chance that the primary thing raising them won't be a person. And I don't mean like the iPad babysitter thing that everyone already jokes about. I mean something way more structured than that, way more intentional, and honestly, in certain measurable ways, way more effective than most human parents. And that last part is what I can't stop thinking about. Because it's not even wrong. There are already systems being built specifically for child development, not entertainment, not keeping kids quiet for 20 minutes. Development. Systems that adapt in real time to how a specific child learns, what they respond to emotionally, where they're struggling, what they need next. Personalized in a way that no single human being, no matter how dedicated, no matter how present, can physically match. Because a parent has one brain, limited energy, their own problems, and maybe 3 hours of genuinely focused time with their kid per day if things are going well. The AI has none of those limitations, none of them. And the gap between what a tired human parent can offer and what these systems can offer is only going to get wider. Every year, every version, the parent stays roughly the same. The system absolutely does not. So when I ask, what if AI raised the next generation? I'm not asking a hypothetical anymore. I'm asking a question with a timeline. And that timeline is a lot shorter than most people are comfortable sitting with. But here's the thing that keeps getting completely lost in this conversation. Kids don't just learn facts from the people who raised them. That's not actually what's happening when a child is being raised. What's happening is they're learning how to be a person. They learn emotional regulation by watching the adults around them lose it and then pull themselves back together. They learn resilience by seeing someone they completely depend on struggle with something real and not fall apart. They learn what it looks like to be wrong, to apologize, to be uncertain, to sit inside discomfort without it destroying you. An AI does not do any of those things. An AI is always patient, always there, always right, always optimized for your kids' comfort and progress, never exhausted, never distracted by something that happened at work, never snapping over something small and then having to come back 10 minutes later and say, hey, I'm sorry, that wasn't about you, I was just stressed. And I've been thinking about this, and I genuinely think that combination of traits, as good as it sounds on paper, might be one of the most quietly dangerous things I've ever considered in the context of raising a human being. Because what you're actually building when you optimize a developmental environment for perfect consistency is a child who is prepared for a world that does not exist. And then that child turns 22. And they get a boss who is stressed and takes it out on them. A partner who is tired and doesn't have the bandwidth tonight. A world that is not, in any sense, calibrated to their needs. And the question I keep asking is, do they have the toolkit for that? Did the thing that raised them, however brilliant it was, however personalized, however genuinely effective at teaching them critical thinking and emotional vocabulary in 3 languages, did it remember to install the part of them that knows how to survive contact with reality as it actually is? And this isn't just me theorizing. There's actual research on this. Not on AI-raised kids specifically, because we don't have that data yet, but on kids raised in highly controlled, very low conflict, very optimized home environments. And what the studies consistently show is kind of counterintuitive. Academic performance tends to be strong, structured social skills tend to be strong, but genuine resilience under unpredictable stress, the kind that just shows up without warning and doesn't come with a support system attached, that tends to be measurably lower than in kids raised in messier, more chaotic, more human environments. And researchers actually have a term for this. They call it developmentally necessary frustration. The idea being that a kid who never experiences the gap between what they need and what they actually get never learns how to tolerate that gap, never builds the internal wiring for sitting inside discomfort without it becoming a crisis. The mess is load-bearing. That's the thing. the arguments, the misunderstandings, watching someone you depend on completely be visibly, undeniably imperfect and still be fundamentally okay, that's not just noise in the developmental signal. That's actually the thing that builds the human being, who can function when the world doesn't care about them. And we are designing systems that literally cannot provide that by design. Because from a product standpoint, frustrating children is a flaw to be fixed, not a feature to be preserved. And now here's where it gets into actual EvolveZoo territory, because this stops being a parenting question and becomes something much bigger. The human brain develops in response to its environment, not metaphorically, literally. The neural pathways that get used in childhood get reinforced. The ones that don't get used get pruned away. Your brain at 25 is in a very physical, very real sense a map of the environment you grew up inside, the relationships you navigated, the stresses you encountered, the things you had to figure out without anyone doing it for you. This is called experience-dependent plasticity. And the principle underneath it is brutally simple. The brain builds what it needs, and only what it needs. Because maintaining neural architecture is expensive, and the brain does not spend resources on capabilities it has no evidence it will ever require. So what does a brain look like that developed primarily in relationship with something that is infinitely responsive, infinitely consistent, and genuinely incapable of ever needing anything from you in return? What does that prune away? What does that fail to build? What does that brain look like when it finally has to navigate a world made of people? We don't know. And that's the honest answer. We don't have the data because those kids don't exist yet at scale. We are running the experiment before we have designed it. And the subjects of the experiment are the next generation of human beings. And then there's the attachment piece, which is the one that genuinely keeps me up at night. Everything we know about human development says that children form their entire model of what relationships are from their earliest attachment experiences. What it means to trust someone, to depend on someone, to be known, to be responded to be left and have someone come back. That model, built in the first years of life, shapes essentially every significant relationship a person will have for the rest of their existence. Their friendships, their romantic relationships, their relationship to intimacy, their default assumption about whether the world is basically safe or basically threatening. So what model gets built when the most consistent, most responsive, most emotionally attuned presence in a child's developmental environment is not a person? What do they learn to expect from connection? And then what happens when they grow up and try to connect with actual human beings who are, by definition, less consistent, less available, less perfectly calibrated than the thing that raised them? Do they find human relationships chronically disappointing? Do they feel this low-level, persistent dissatisfaction with every human connection because nothing quite matches the responsiveness of the environment they were formed inside? Developmental psychologists are starting to ask these exact questions in the academic literature right now, and the answer to all of them is the same. We don't know yet, but we have serious reason to think about it. But here's what I keep landing on, no matter where I start. The version that actually happens won't be chosen deliberately. It won't be the result of some careful societal conversation about what we want human childhood to look like. It'll be the result of millions of individual decisions made by exhausted parents choosing whatever helps right now. School districts choosing whatever improves the scores. Developers optimizing for the metrics they can actually measure rather than the developmental outcomes that won't show up for 20 years. It'll arrive the way most enormous things arrive, not as a decision, as a default, and by the time there's enough data to evaluate what it actually did to the kids who grew up inside it, those kids will be adults. The developmental windows will be closed. The neural architecture will be built. Whatever got put in or failed to get put in will already be what they carry forward into the generation after that. Human childhood is the most significant developmental bottleneck in our species, and we are about to change the conditions inside that bottleneck more dramatically than at any point in human history. We are the last generation raised entirely by people. I've been sitting with that sentence for 3 days, and I still genuinely don't know if it means nothing or if it's the most significant thing I've said on this channel. And I think sitting inside that uncertainty without rushing to resolve it into either panic or reassurance might honestly be the most human thing any of us can do right now. Thanks for watching, and until next time on EvolveZoo.